People hate being sold to, but they love to buy. As an optometrist, I never really valued my skills. When it came to selling, I didn't feel confident, and I even felt a bit dirty afterwards. If you're in the same situation, and it doesn't have to be about optometry, it could be anything product or service based, I really hope this video will help you out. The first mindset shift to realize is that there's moral good in selling. Buyers have needs, and those needs are met by sellers. What sales does is it brings the right buyer to the correct seller. Now, I do agree that sales can be used manipulatively, it can create fear, it can be used to mislead the public, but generally, sales is essential for society. It's an exchange of value. And I always like to think back to, people hate being sold to, but they love to buy. So your primary goal is to make an enjoyable experience for the buyer when they make that purchase. You need to make the person feel really good about what they've bought. And this comes down to a few essentials. The first thing is to find the right people. You can't turn everyone into buyers. Some people aren't actually looking to buy, and some people can't afford what you're offering yet. And the way you find buyers is by offering value. Offering value upfront builds trust, and once you've built that trust, the rest of the journey becomes easy. In the case of optometry, we need to listen to patients' needs. So for example, let's say someone comes in for a routine eye exam. They're not there to make a particular purchase, but you're just there to provide your value and explain what tests you do, explain the health of the eye, and all the aspects of the eye exam. They can go home happy because you've built that trust. So when it comes to replacing their glasses if they need to, or if they need to make a purchase, or they need to make a recommendation for friends and family, because you've built that trust, they're able to come to you to make that purchase. Another example is, say if someone's having problems with their progressive lenses with the computer. So as we know, progressive lenses are really good for being able to see far away and up close, but they can't do one job particularly well, so they can't do computers particularly well. So what you can do to say to the patient is that you can tell them, you don't have to do anything. You can continue on with your progressive lenses, but you're going to be struggling. What I recommend is a pair of intermediate or computer glasses specifically made up for the computer. Then it's really up to them if they want to make that purchase or not. You've explained all the pros and cons. When it comes down to a specific recommendation, offer what you think is best for them. So if their prescription is really high, they need thinner lenses, recommend that. Your job is to make the best recommendation, not the cheapest. That also means it's not the most expensive either. For example, you wouldn't recommend anti-reflection coating for someone who wants glasses just for the workshop or just to beat around. Your best option should be the default. A lot of people just end up sticking to the default rather than changing. And this also makes it easier for the patient. Rather than being overloaded with information, you've made that decision for them because you're the expert, you've built that trust. If there's any objection to price, that's where you can start taking away certain things, but obviously they'll bring down the value. Another thing too is with the buyer, we want them to be confident about the decision they've made. A really good example is when you're purchasing glasses or looking at frames. So I know there's things about frame shape and color and things like that, but from my experience, I just get the patient to try the frames on and I just rely on my gut feeling if it's right or not. I know there's technical aspects, like you don't want the frames to be too big because you can't put lenses into them, but really it's just a gut response or a gut feeling. And when it comes down to recommending the frame, you want them to be confident about that decision, that they like that frame, because they're the ones wearing it at the end of the day. Now, thank you so much for sticking this far into the video. I kind of want to go on a bit of a rant or a side tangent just as a reward for you for sticking this far into the video. So a few weeks ago, my colleagues and I were part of this presentation given by a lens company for a product launch that they were doing. And a major criticism was, all they talked about was how good their product was. Like they use these particular statistics and numbers about 30% of the light will be reflected away. These things weren't that important. I mean, I'm never going to explain that to a patient. Like, I'm never going to say that this lens here reflects your light away 99% of the time. What the lens company should have done is, because we act as the buyer for the lens company is selling to us. The lens company wasn't actually providing the value. They were just talking about their product and how awesome it was. They weren't looking at our particular pain points. So for example, some pain points that we have are recommending progressive lenses to patients. That's quite difficult to do. Or why the coating of the lens is fading off. How do we explain that to patients? That's a pain point that we suffer with. And then what they could have done is, to make the presentation better, is they could have asked us our particular pain points, and by looking at our pain points, they provide value for those pain points. That builds the trust, and that means we would recommend their lenses or their products. But they didn't do that. Now, there was actually another company, a contact lens company, that did this really well. And the guy's actually an optometrist, the guy doing the presentation. He explained how to fit this particular lens. So there's a lens called an orthokeratology lens. That's a lens you sleep in at nighttime. And with that particular lens, it's quite hard to prescribe to particular people. So for example, we didn't learn much about it in university. So using the lens is going to be hard to do. And what the optometrist did was, he explained how to prescribe that lens. So he would say, try using it on people who work with you. than your family members to build that confidence. And then he would give you particular snippets and really high value stuff about how to prescribe orthokeratology lenses to people. Or he gave examples of if you get your secretary to wear the contact lenses, they become your best seller for this particular product. That's really high value stuff because I can take that and use it. And because he's giving me that value, I trust this individual, I trust this company so much, and I end up using their products a lot more. Another thing too is I want to talk about some more personal stuff. It's about self-belief and controlling what you can control. I really struggled with believing in myself, and if I didn't believe in myself, how could I sell something? And then a lot of things that I'd provide, I didn't think was really worth it or it's valuable. But you have to realize that you are the professional, and when you study these things, it becomes trivial to you, but to the other person, it's actually not that trivial. So you have to keep that in mind, and you are actually worth it. And it's about having that self-belief, that core belief that you've studied this hard to do this particular degree or this particular skill set, and that's really high value. You need to sort of change your perception of yourself into something that you're actually worth it and you actually are valuable and have something to offer and exchange value towards. Now, there's some people out there who don't actually perceive the value in what you're doing. That's out of your control, but what you can control is how you perceive yourself and what your value is. Anyway guys, I hope this video makes you feel a bit more comfortable when you're selling. Let me know if you have any tips, troubles or pain points down in the comments below. Stay focused and talk soon.